Hello, I'm Dr. Alberto Villoldo, and I am a shaman. I wasn't always a shaman. I didn't always get to wear a shaman's shawl. For a long time, I was a medical anthropologist. I was trained to study the healing practices of different traditions, and eventually I discovered that the only way to truly study the healing practices of the shamans was to become a shaman. And to understand that we don't have a healing practice in the West. We don't have a healthcare system. We have a disease care system. In the West, doctors are trained to identify illnesses and to treat illnesses, not to treat people. And as a shaman, I discovered that illnesses really do not exist. They do not exist. They're a collection of symptoms with amazing names attached to them, like fibromyalgia. What the hell does that mean? That's the term we use when we don't know what's going on. We need today to discover a health practice, how to maintain our health, how to get our health span to equal our lifespan. How do we live younger, longer? That's the key. And how do we do this in a time of pandemic, in a time of tremendous global crisis? I'd like to explore some of these subjects with you today. As I mentioned, I wasn't always a shaman. I was, for a long time, directing a small neuroscience laboratory at San Francisco State University, where we were trying to determine if we could create psychosomatic health. We knew that we could create psychosomatic disease because we know that. We know 80% of illnesses have a psychosomatic component to them. When I became a shaman, I understood that 100% of illnesses have a psychosomatic component. When we say that illnesses have a psychosomatic component, we're oftentimes confusing that for making things up or for believing that you're sick or for having anxiety or women used to have attributed to them a bunch of illnesses that were related to hysteria. In fact, a hysterectomy, which is when you remove the organs, the female organs, meant that you were dealing with hysteria because the womb was considered to have gone crazy inside the body. Extraordinary that that's still happening today. I was amazed when a friend of mine who was going to deliver her baby, the first thing that she was asked at the hospital, when would you like to schedule your delivery? And her response was, whenever God wants. And they said, no, we need to program it so your doctor can be there, which meant, of course, cutting her belly open to pull her child out. And she said, no, I don't want to do it that way. Today we find ourselves at the end of many of the paradigms that have fueled Western society. We have come to the end of medicine. Medicine is not guaranteeing our health anymore. If you look at the statistics for autism, 40 years ago, 1 out of 10,000 children was autistic. Today it's 1 out of 40. In 10 years, it's going to be 1 out of 10. Today, if you live to be 85 years old, which you will, you have a 50% chance of diagnosable Alzheimer's. 50%. If you live to be 90, your risk factors go up to 75%. And we're all going to live to be that old. Western medicine is in collapse. Western economics, which is based on a model of masters and slaves, having a slave, whether it be a country that or a group of people that have to work for the sole benefit and success and thriving and comfort of a class of masters. That is collapsed around the world. What are the new models that we create for living in our world? But even that question has become too small. The shamans of the Andes and around the world speak about the end of time, the end of humanity as we have known it, because humanity, humans, you and I, all of us, have become parasites on the earth. And whenever you have a parasite in the system will try to eliminate it. The immune system of the host will attempt to eliminate the parasite. And that's what's happening in the earth today. The immune system of the planet is eliminating the predatory human that has abused the earth for its sole benefit, which is the definition of a parasite. The prophecies, though, are not pessimistic. They speak about the dawn of a new human. And this new human is not going to be the next generation or the one after it. It's going to be us, you and I. Within our generations, we're going to have the opportunity to take a quantum leap into who we are becoming as a species. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, the prophecies say that we have to go through a dark tunnel, that there's a process of death and of rebirth. And all of us, of course, are ready for a rebirth, for a new life, for a new destiny on the earth. But to do that, the prophecies say we have to die. We have to go through the process of death. The phoenix, the bird that is reborn every 500 years, has to be totally consumed by the fire in order for the golden egg that it's sitting on to hatch, to emerge. We have to go through the great transfiguration, the great transformation. That means the death, the exhaustion, the collapse of everything that has been, so that we can emerge as a new human today, a human that the Andean mystics and shamans called homo luminous, no longer homo sapiens, knowing, understanding, thinking man. Remember the famous words of Descartes, I think, therefore I am, but homo luminous, women and men that shine with their own light, that have become illumined, enlightened, that have an enlightened relationship of stewardship for the planet and for all of her creatures, for the mother and for all of her creatures. Now, in biology, we know that Mother Earth will protect a species at the expense of the individual members of the species, which means this is regular biology, which I disagree with in this particular arena, which means that the Earth is not concerned about you and I. Now, as shamans, we know that our mother takes an active interest in all of her children, each and every one of her children. You and I are under the protection of our great mother. Biology says, no, it's the species that she's concerned with. And today we know that if you're not part of the problem, that if you're part of the solution, that the great mother, the goddess, Gaia, will look after you, will look after you and I, will give us the tools that we need to heal, to recover from pandemics, to use this as an opportunity to quantum leap into the future as the rest of the species becomes extinct. So in science, when you do an experiment, when you want to have the N, or the number of people in your study, be as great as possible, so that it has validity and applicability to a large number of people. You don't do a study with only 10 people in it. You want 1,000 or 10,000 people. But today we're taking part in an experiment. And it's an experiment in intelligence, an experiment in the birth of a new human. And the N, the number of participants in the study, is 1. The N, the number of people in my study, is 1, and my study is called Alberto. And you can take part in this experiment as well. It's an evolutionary experiment that we're being invited by time, by circumstance, and by the earth to take part in. Now, if you choose not to be part of the experiment, if you want to continue eating the standard American diet, poisoning yourself with the water and with the food that you eat, and continuing to take medications that are deadly to us, if you do not take part in this experiment, you get to be part of the control group. And the control group is that fat part in the bell curve is the statistics. And we know that the statistics today are not pretty. The statistics say that 1/3 of us are going to die from cancer, 40% of us from heart disease, and half of us are going to lose our minds by the time we get to be 85 years old. Those are horrible statistics, but that's where you automatically join if you don't take part in the experiment of n is equal to 1. So the question is, how do we take part in this extraordinary experiment? We take part in it by returning to the sacred, by charting a sacred map and a sacred strategy for our lives. Because if we don't do that, if we don't come up with a new map, we're going to be following the maps that we inherited, which are the genetic maps that predispose us to dying and getting sick the way that our parents and our grandparents did. Of course, you hear that Alzheimer's runs in the family, or breast conditions run in the family, or heart disease runs in the family. It only runs in the family if you allow your genes to preordain your destiny. But today we know our genes are only 10% of our destiny. The other 90% are what we call epigenetics. Epigenetics, epi means greater than your genetics, that you are the product of your dreams, of your sacred journey. And if you don't embark on a sacred journey and a sacred map and follow your dreams, then you revert back to being in the control group. You revert back to the program that you inherited through your genetics, or the program you inherited through your family drama. You begin to repeat the same drama that ran in your family. Of course, this is guided by the beliefs, the subconscious, the unconscious beliefs that we hold about the nature of reality. So how does a shaman go about changing the map? How do you go about changing these underlying unconscious beliefs that by their very nature we're not aware of, that we confuse for reality itself? Well, we do it with the most ancient ceremony known to humanity, which is the fire ceremony. This is a ceremony that I introduced in our welcome programs to the summit, and that I'd like to do with you again today in greater detail. We're going to be doing that a little bit later. What I'd like for you to do immediately is to make a commitment to be part of this experiment in wisdom. It's an experiment in intelligence that's taking place. And intelligence, of course, is what for a very long time we have called spirituality. This is the experiment that's happening today, where we're awakening higher order neural networks in the brain, in the neocortex, in a brand new brain that appeared around 300,000 years ago, when the human brain doubled in size in the space of only 10 generations. Amazing quantum leap that occurred 300,000 years ago with the appearance of the neocortex, the brain that sits at the very top of our head, that has all of these undulations and wrinkles and that looks like a walnut, because it needs all of this surface for its processing power. Now, this brain appeared 300,000 years ago, but we didn't learn how to use it until 50,000 years ago. It's like my new computer. I bought a new computer recently, and I know how to send emails and how to type letters in it, but I haven't figured out all of the possibilities that it has. It took nature 250,000 years for humans to activate this new neural computer. And we activated it by switching our diet, by shifting our fuel that we use to fuel the brain. So 50,000 years ago, we migrated towards the shorelines, towards the rivers, towards the right by the ocean, where we could begin feeding on mollusks that were rich in DHA, in the omega-3 fatty acids. And this higher brain that runs on fats, it runs on the good fats that you find in nuts and in shellfish and fatty fish and in avocados and in coconut oil and in olive oil, in the Mediterranean diet. This higher brain was able to understand directly the nature of reality, was able to break free from the grip of the superstitious ancient brain, the limbic brain, which is the brain of the Neanderthals, our Neanderthal cousins. That's the brain steeped in superstition. Was able to break free from that brain that feeds primarily on sugars to step up to this higher brain that discovered science, that discovered consciousness, that discovered enlightenment, that discovered oneness, and that runs basically on fats. So we need to supply the correct fuel for this brain, particularly the omega-3 fatty acids. So in parts of North America and the western coast of the northwest of the United States and in Canada, the indigenous people used omega-3 fatty acids as money. This was currency. There was a fish called the candlefish that was so rich in these oils that if you dried the fish, you could put a wick on it and light it and have it be a candle. It would provide illumination for your dinner table. Now, this fish was so rich in oils that the oils was extracted by the indigenous people and they used it to barter. It was their most precious commodity. Of course, this oil, rich in omega-3, rich in DHA, allowed for that new brain to make the connections that it needed to make to rewire itself through neuroplasticity, to rewire itself to understand the reason that we were here in this planet, what we came here to do. That's the goal and the object of our spiritual practices, is to understand who we are and what we come here to do in this world. The answer for the shaman is that we came here to become earth keepers. And in becoming keepers of the earth and of nature and of the mother, we would discover who we are in relationship to her and to the cosmos. Not in relationship with our family drama and with our mommies and daddies and lovers and partners, but in relationship with spirit. With spirit. But that could only be done when you access this higher brain. The shamanic Himalayas and the Americas were all designed to give us access to this experience of the higher brain, the brain that thrives on the experience of oneness and that loves the bliss molecules, this communion that we can have with nature and with each other and with wisdom directly. Joyous bliss. We have to begin with what we eat, with what we put on our plate, what we put in our bodies. That should be organic, seasonal, local. This is the key. You know that already. Rich in plant foods, it's primarily plant-based diet with minimal animal food. We were very poor hunters. We were gatherers primarily, living from the greens that we were able to locate, and only occasionally on animal foods. That's the very foundation. This is what the shamans call the physical level, or the level of serpent, of your immediate physical reality. Put into your body what's going to regenerate your body, what's going to allow you to grow a new body even, keeping in mind no one in the planet older than 7 years old. Because every 7 years we exchange every atom, every molecule, and every cell in our bodies. We do that with our skin every 7 days. Every 7 days we get new skin cells. We renew the lining of our gut every 3 days. We get new heart cells every 20 days, new bones every 7 years. Extraordinary. But you cannot grow a new body on junk food. You have to eat local, seasonal, primarily green, nutrient-dense, calorie-poor diet, avoiding the sugars. That's the most basic level. The level above serpent was jaguar. This was jaguar medicine. This had to do with the emotions, with repairing our emotions. Now, the focus of the shamans psychology. In psychology, we believe that we can heal our emotions. The shamans understood that you had to eliminate, get rid of your emotions altogether, because emotions were ancient survival programs embedded in our Neanderthal limbic brain. And you had to replace the emotions with feelings. Feelings are authentic. Emotions are lingered, they're toxic. If only I had done this, if only I had said this to him when he's, they continue to poison us across time. Emotions are toxic. Feelings are spontaneous. They come, they flow through us. Emotions tend to come into us and fester within us, linger within us, sink roots. See, the human nervous system resets itself every 20 minutes. If it lasts more than 20 minutes, it's not a feeling, it's an emotion. If you've been angry for 20 days or 20 years, that's a toxic emotion. And the way to repair that is to be rid of them and replace them with feelings. Feelings are authentic. We've all wanted to kill sometime. If you've been married or had children, you know what it's like to want to kill. And within 20 seconds or 20 minutes, you go, oh, forgive me, honey, or how could I have felt like that towards this person that I love the most? Feelings are authentic. They wash through us and we become an empty vessel for extraordinary feelings. Whereas emotions linger. They fester, they take root within us. We see the caller ID and we go, what the hell does he want? So we continue to feed toxic reverberating circuits in the limbic brain, the Neanderthal brain. We need to repair that. How do we do it? The shamans do it through the practice of forgiveness. Forgiveness is step number one. You have to forgive yourself and forgive those people that you believed wronged you. And then you have to transform forgiveness into gratitude, where you're able to say to that person that so hurt you, thank you for teaching me. I vow I'm never going to learn this way again, but thank you for teaching me. And then you have to put that in the fire. The fire becomes the transforming element, the ceremony we're going to do in a few moments. Because this ancient mammalian limbic brain, the Neanderthal brain, needs ceremony in order to change. That's why you have ceremonies and rites of passage in every culture on the planet. That brain will not change through understanding. Gee, I could have reacted differently, or I've got to change my behavior. That brain needs ceremony. Shamans have known this forever. But how do you create ceremony? I'm not talking about the complex rituals that are embedded in religion, but the spontaneous ceremony that are sacred, that you can do with another simply by making eye contact with them, gazing into their eyes, or clinking glasses together, or touching someone with compassion and with gentleness. That becomes a ceremony. A ceremony is a moment infused with the sacred. But then we have to put that entire dynamic into the fire. So this is the level of jaguar. Then you come up to the level of hummingbird. Now these were the attributes of the guardians of the four directions: the serpent, the jaguar, the hummingbird, and the eagle or condor. With the jaguar, when you release your emotions, you died to who you were. You died to the person you were, or that you were totally misinformed about, that you believed you were the product of bad parenting and violent childhood. You were not. You're a living miracle. You're the embodiment of starlight. You're the embodiment of spirit. So that's the realization that comes when you are able to release toxic emotions, and eventually all emotions. You understand that all emotions are toxic. And then the hummingbird medicine has to do with discovering a new map, a sacred map for your life. I remember when I was in college, I took an aptitude test, and it indicated that I would be best as a farmer or an engineer. Now, I knew I couldn't grow anything, so I decided to go into engineering and become an engineer. And luckily, I dropped out of that path early on, but because that was not a sacred path. This is what you do for your job. The task of the shaman is to discover what you do for your work. Now, for some of us, we've managed to make our job and our work be the same thing. But our task, no matter what our job is to find our work, to find our calling, to find that sacred map that will guide us through this life where we're able to be in service and of service to the earth, to spirit, and to all creatures in this world. How do we make a difference in the world? This is a question we all ask ourselves. And it comes to you after you go through your fire of releasing everything that needs to be shed from your life, the toxic emotions, the toxic ideas, the toxic belief systems that are all wrapped into that ancient limbic Neanderthal brain. So I think it's time that we do that ceremony, because we cannot step up to the sacred map that the hummingbird offers us. And it's called hummingbird medicine because in the Americas, they discovered that the hummingbird was the great journeyer. The hummingbirds would migrate from Brazil to Canada without being able to fly. They would respond to their calling. They would say yes to their calling. And to hell with, I don't have enough time or enough money, or I haven't slept enough, or the children are not grown. They would respond to their calling with a yes. And then the universe supported them in every way. But to get to that calling, we have to go through the jaguar gate. We have to go through that death and rebirth that jaguar leads us through. Because the medicine of the jaguar to the Amazon people, to the people that still live in the garden, that have not been kicked out of paradise like we were, the jaguar medicine is the one that shows you the ways beyond death. I remember asking an old medicine woman that I was working with in the Amazon, I said, what's the purpose of all of this shamanic teaching? It's so complex, and the plants, and he said, the object of it, Alberto, is to learn how to get out of this life alive, to learn how to take your consciousness with you when you cross over from this particle state of a body into the quantum field. How do you take your consciousness with you? And that's the gift of jaguar medicine. So let's do that together. I invite you to find a candle, to take a candle and to light it and to keep it by your side. And then find a stick, a small stick or toothpick even will do, even a little piece of paper that's rolled up, that you can blow into it everything that has died in your life that you no longer need to carry with you. But even more, because we really don't have the luxury of spending the next 3 years healing ourselves, I want you to blow everything into that stick that needs to die right now in order for you to step into your sacred journey. What is it that you need to let go of? What is it that you need to let die? I remember one time I discovered that what I needed to let go of was my name. Was my name even. So that I stopped identifying with my childhood or the history of not having the right mother or the right father or the right schooling or no. And eventually I put all those things in the fire And then a voice said to me, put your name in the fire, Alberto, so you can completely disidentify with everything that you think you are or that you think you lack. So whatever it is that has died, that you no longer need to carry, and whatever it is that needs to die right now. What do you need to release today? Remember that when you make this final jaguar leap from your physical state to the quantum field, you will have to let go of everything, of the house and the car and the dog and the spouse and even your body and your name. When you go into the quantum field, you're not going to respond to that name. So why not let go of it now, symbolically? And we're not letting go, of course, of your dog or your house or your body. You're letting go of the identification. I know that I am not my history. I'm not my past. I'm not my schooling. I use the name doctor when I'm making restaurant reservations because it gets me a better table. But that's it. I know I'm not Dr. Alberto. I know that I am a mystery unto myself. And only as such can I shed all of the paradigms that live within me at a cellular level that have exhausted themselves in today's time of crisis. I invite you to blow it all into the fire, and you'll find tremendous emotional healing repair as you shed toxic emotions, replacing them with authentic feelings. This is humanity's most ancient ceremony. Remember that we learned how to use fire 800,000 years ago, but we only learned how to make fire 300,000 years ago. So the keeping of the fire was the most sacred task in the village. And we've sat around the fire for 1,000,000 years. So blow it into that stick. What is it that you're ready to let go of? What is it that needs to die within you? And then place that stick into the fire. And if you have some experience in the shamanic ways, you can put fire around your field, any area that needs to be consumed, clear, cleansed in your chakras. Be very careful. Releasing the light that was bound into those beliefs, into all of those assumptions about the nature of reality. Freeing yourself from the grip of those toxic beliefs that we all grew up with, so that we can have a sacred journey. We can truly step into that journey of hummingbirds, saying yes to our calling at this time in history. As shamans, we know that we come back, that we return. We know that we come back lifetime after lifetime. And that today we have come back, all of us that are taking part in this program, we chose to reincarnate at this time to help discover a new journey for humanity and for the earth, for the planet itself. This is a tremendous opportunity that we have today to make a difference in this global crisis that we're facing, to become an agent of healing rather than to continue to live as victims of a pandemic or as victims of an economic system or as victims of climate change. We can become the agents of a new time, of a new epoch, a new era. And we must become that homo luminous that the prophecies speak about. The biggest difference that the shaman can make, of course, you need to eat right, you need to forgive, you need to practice gratitude, replace them with feelings, come up with a sacred map. The most important way that we can make an impact, besides all of these ways that we discussed, is to create a standing wave in a quantum field, to create peace and beauty in the earth. The shamans call this dreaming the world into being. And this is what, when you go beyond hummingbird medicine and into eagle medicine, this is what the eagle does. The eagle knows no obstacles. When she runs into obstacles, she simply flies higher, goes higher, gets closer to the sun, closer to the light, and flies right over them. To do that, we need to awaken our shaman's vision. We need to dream a new world into being, a world of possibilities into being. And we do that by creating a ripple in the field, a ripple of peace. So I want to invite you to do that with me right now. And we're going to begin by opening our VIDA, that luminous orb, that radiant sun that we have above our heads, which sometimes we refer to as an eighth chakra, but it really isn't. It's the halo, it's the light that we see around the Buddha, around the Christ. It's your shaman light, your Buddha light. And to expand it around us so that we can step into infinity, we can break free from time. And there, in that state, we want to breathe and emanate peace and beauty in all four directions. We want to do what the Buddhists call manifesting bodhicitta, Buddha states that can inform the quantum field to help the earth and humanity go through this portal that we're faced with. So join me bringing your hands to your heart center. And this is an ancient practice that the shamans learned when they were healers, because the shamans were dedicated to healing, and they discovered that healing was challenging, was difficult, that it was easier actually to prevent disease by creating the conditions for health so that disease never appeared. Because the problem with being sick, of course, is that you could die. If you were only sick for a week and then you felt better again, it wouldn't be such a problem. But the problem is you become incapacitated, you could lose your vitality, and you would lose your life eventually. So they set about solving the problem of death and discovered that death exists only within time. So they set about solving the problem of time by breaking free from linear time that ran out. And they did so by stepping into timelessness, by stepping outside of ordinary time, by stepping into infinity, which is what I'm going to teach you how to do right now. With your hands at your heart center, dropping into your breath. And then on an in-breath, bringing your hand into that radiant sun above your head, and turning your palms out and expanding it and enveloping yourself in this radiance. Behind you and before you. Enveloping yourself in this radiance, stepping outside of ordinary time into infinity, into timelessness and deathlessness. Because this is who you were before you were born, who you will be after you die. This golden egg, this luminous egg that you see depicted over the Christ or the Buddha. That is you, that is your light. And let's take a moment together in meditation, and then I'm going to ask you to do the same practice. And this time, as you bring your hands up, I want you to expand your field and to envelop everyone in this program. 300,000 people sharing a single field consciousness. So bring your hands to your heart. And remember the qualities of the field. It is that it's non-local to space. We're next to each other. We're sitting next to each other around a holy fire. And non-local to time, whether you're watching this program live or you're watching it a week later, we're together around the holy fire in the infinite now. And bringing your hands up into this radiant sun, and around you, and now expanding it, blanketing everyone who's joining us in this meditation at whatever time and wherever you are, sitting around the sacred fire together, staying with your breath, hands in prayer pose in your heart center, and feeling yourself held by everyone who's joining us in this Earthkeeper Summit. As you hold everyone in your field, like a mother holds a child tenderly, beautifully, allowing the peace and the radiance and the intentions of so many of us, medicine men and women who have chosen to come at this time to help the earth and humanity through this difficult transition. And find that place of the heart, of the munai, of the deep love for the mother. And bathing each other and the earth in our love, in our munai. And being held in love. Creating a standing wave of peace, of love, of beauty, of healing. For each other, for ourselves, and for the mother. And bowing to each one of us around the fire, around the sacred fire, men and women that we've known forever. We've been together before, recognizing each other, greeting each other once again. So nice to see you again. Of your VIDA kocha. VIDA kocha means the source of the sacred, and bringing it into your body. All of the blessings and beauty and joy of spirit. Of your VIDA kocha. VIDA kocha means the source of the sacred, and bringing it into your body. All of the blessings and beauty and joy of spirit, informing and healing your physical body, transforming it into a luminous body of homo luminous, of the new human that are you and I, and that we have been waiting for so long. Thus we step into the way of the ego medicine, of dreaming the world into being, of awakening our vision, opening our eyes. The ego can fly high above the Andes to the point that she sees the curvature of the earth, but can look down in the bush and see a mouse scurrying around with extraordinary visual acuity, that our eyes become open, and that they are not only organs of perception, but of creation. That whatever you can imagine and envision as a medicine man and woman becomes so. It becomes so. that you dream your world into being, and it always mirrors back to you the condition of your love and of your intent. Let us dream that new world into being together. Awaken that medicine woman, that medicine man within you, that is who you are and who will travel through the sacred map on the sacred journey that you have embarked upon. Thank you.